Okay, so today I'm going to talk to you guys about slopes, all things slopes, okay? So we can just figure out how to do them. Alright, so we're not going to talk about the unit rates at all, and I'm just going to use the review because then it already has graphs for me. So we have 4 different kinds of slopes. We have this slope, we have this slope, and this slope. Now slope is always the letter M. Whoops. Okay. Slope is always y over x, which is your rise over your run. Okay, so that's up and down movement over the left and the right movement. So these 4 different types of slopes, we have this guy, which is a positive, because we read our slopes left to right like you read words in English. This guy's going downhill, so he's a negative. The flat slope is a slope of 0, like the actual number. And then this slope is called undefined. Okay, so there's 4 different slopes. So they'll look different depending on what you are trying to do. So we have these guys down here. So the first thing I like to do is figure out what I have, which of the 4 I have, okay? So this guy's flat, so my flat slope is always a slope of 0. And this guy goes straight up and down. So he is a slope that's undefined. That's what his slope is. Undefined. Okay, this guy has a positive slope, so I don't need to write anything else. This guy has a positive slope, this guy has a positive slope, and this guy has a negative slope. So I'm going to just write a negative slope. We're just going to do this so we could fill in our blanks. So those are my fraction lines, where I put my rise and my run on top of those, or underneath them. Okay, so anything with a tilt is going to have a fraction with a number, okay? We are going to think about our grid lines like streets. We're trying to go from one house to the next house, but we can only drive on the streets, and we're trying to get there as fast as possible. So you have to make sure that you go from one house to the next house, staying on your streets. You're going to end up drawing a triangle. You can draw it above or below, it doesn't really matter. Okay, then we're going to count our boxes. I like to count my rise first because remember, your slope is your rise over your run, so y over x. So I go up 1, and I'm going to write it down because or else I forget. And then to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it doesn't matter if you count to the right or to the left. I like to make swishes, so I count each box correctly. So my slope, oh, I messed this one up. My slope is decreasing, so it's going to have a negative. And then my rise is 1 and my run is 5. It's a good thing to double check these. Sorry. I'm sure you're a little frustrated. I'm really sorry. Okay, then here we're going to connect our dots going on our streets from one house to the next house, and we're going to count our rise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a run of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So my slope has a rise of 6 and a run of 6. So I want to make sure I reduce. All slopes should be reduced. If not, they'll be wrong. So reduce. Okay? Oh, sorry. So 6 over 6 reduces to 1, or you could have 1 over 1. Either answer is totally fine. Okay, and I'm double checking. Yes, it is positive, and my answer is positive. And 2 should be negative, so glad we fixed that. Number 4. Oh, I guess I'll leave it like this. Okay, on number 4, we're going to connect our 2 houses driving along the streets. We don't want to drive through anybody's house or anybody's yard. We'll get in trouble. Okay, so it is a positive because when we go from left to right, we're going uphill. And we're going to count our rise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And our run of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So our slope is 8 over 5. We already did 5, it's undefined. This guy right here, he's decreasing. When I go left to right, I'm going downhill. And again, it doesn't matter if you draw your triangle above or below. So I'm going to count my rise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And my run, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It should be a decreasing slope. My rise goes on top, my run goes on the bottom. And I cannot reduce. Okay? So that's how you do those types of slopes. The next types of slopes we have are these guys. So we're going to find the slope. So I like to pick the first two, but sometimes, like on number 8, we'll talk about maybe that's not the best choice. So we're trying to figure out how to go from -8 to 8, and I like to pick my y first because remember, slope is y over x. It's rise over run. So whatever I do first, then I'll remember I have to write that down first. To go from -8 to -8, we add 0, and to go from 11 to 12, I subtracted 1. So my slope is going to be 0 over 1, and we don't want to leave zeros in our fractions, so we need to get rid of that, and that ends up being just 0. So if I were to graph this cute little line, then it would look like this. And you can always type that into your calculator. Let me show you. Okay, so if we typed in 0 divided by 1, we would get 0. Okay, so that's a no slope. But if we typed in the opposite and did 1 divided by 0, that would be a divide by error. Oh, why is this upside down? Okay, sorry. If we typed in 1 divided by 0, we'd get a divide by error, which would mean that it would be undefined. So that was super weird. Okay, number 8. To go from 32 to 27, I know that my number is getting smaller, so I'm going to have to subtract by something. I'm not exactly sure what to subtract by, so I'm just going to type and figure out how much they're changing. So 32 minus 27 is 5, so I'm subtracting by 5 over here. Now on this guy, I'm going from a negative to a positive, so I'm definitely going to be adding by something. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to put a 1 there. I have to get to 0 from my negative 15, so I have to add at least 15, and then I've got 10 more. So I'm adding 15 and 10 together, which is a total of 25. Okay, so again, all I thought about was if you have a number line like this, we have our cute little 0. I started at negative 15 and I ended at positive 10. So to get from negative 15 all the way up to positive 10, I first have to get to 0. So negative 15 plus 15 will get me to 0. And then I had to go another 10 spaces. So that's why I added 15 and 10 together to give me 25. If you didn't want to do that, you could always use these two ordered pairs, and then that would have been a lot simpler, because 22 to 17, 22 minus 17 is 5, so it would be a minus 5, and then 35 to 60 is a lot easier too. I know it's getting bigger, so I'm going to subtract my 35 and my 60, and again, that means that I would be adding by 25 on this side. So however you want to think about it, it's totally fine, or whatever two ordered pairs you want to pick, it's fine as well. So your slope is your y changing over your x change, and then we have to reduce. Negative 5 over 25 reduces to negative 1/5, and you have to reduce in order to get the points, so make sure you do. Okay, then number 9, to go from 40 to 24, again, you can always subtract. So I'm subtracting by 16 because it's getting smaller, so that's why it's a negative. And then positive 3 to negative 1, I'm going left. So think about it like this again. I'm at 3, and I'm going 2, 1, 0, negative 1. So we went 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces, so we subtracted by 4. So my slope is my change of y over my change of x, and then I'm going to reduce it in my calculator. Negative 16 over negative 4 is positive 4. Okay, so there's my answer. Okay, let's try these other slopes. Oh shoot, I think I need a new paper. Okay. Alright, so these guys. So the formula says subtract the 2 y's on the top and subtract the 2 x's on the bottom, and then you'll have your slope, okay? So the first thing I like to do is I like to label x, y, x, y. Okay, now it doesn't matter which one you pick to go first, but you have to be consistent. So I'm going to pick this ordered pair to be my first numbers, okay? So my slope is equal to y minus y over x minus x. And they have like 1s and 2s, and people use the formula in many different ways. But this is the basic idea, and this is just all you really need to know. Okay, so my first y value that I have is 2. so that needs to go first. You always put a subtract sign. My second y value is 14. Underneath, my first x value, I have to go back to this highlighted one, is -8. You can't start with the second one first. If you started with the first one, you have to start with the first one on the bottom too. Always put a minus sign. My second x value is 8. So then I'm just going to reduce, okay? So 2 minus 14 is -12. And -8 minus 8, whoa, heavens, -8 minus 8 is -16. And then again, reduce as well. -12 over -16 reduces to 3/4. And you could have just typed this whole thing in your calculator. I'm just trying to show you step by step, if I were you, how I would do it, okay? 14, again, we start with label, x, y, x, y. And then I always like to start with the first ordered pair. Again, it doesn't matter, and other people might tell you differently, but that's fine. So essentially, we're doing the y minus y over x minus x because y is on top of the slope. I'm going to pick my first guy, so I've got, oops, heavens, -10, we could fix it. So -10, always a minus sign, my second y value is 2. On top of my first x value is 5, always a minus sign, my second x value is 3. So then this time I'm just going to type the whole thing in. -10 minus 2 over 5 minus 3, and my slope is -6, which you could write as a fraction and put that as -6 over 1, or just -6, it doesn't really matter either way. Okay, number 15, again I like to start by labeling x, y, x, y. Then we're going to write our slope. So on top is my first y value, always put a minus, then my second y value. So if this is a negative, you have to put 2 negatives there, which is fine. Then we put our first x value, always a minus, and my second x value. Then we type them in. Okay, -6 minus -8 over 4 minus 0, and we get a half. So that's my reduced slope for number 15. Finally, 16, again, start by labeling x, y, x, y. My slope is going to be my y value minus my second y value and my first x value minus my second x value. So I'm going to plug that in. Okay, sorry, I always forget how much room I have. I end up stacking things on top of each other. -9 minus 7 over 12 minus 12, and I get divide by error, which means that my slope looks like this guy, which means that 16 has a slope of undefined. Because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to calculate the slope between the 2 points, but I can't because there is no slope because the line is undefined. Let me know if you have any more questions. Have a great day. Bye, guys.